Okay, it's 6 o'clock. Welcome everybody to the full commission budget workshop. You should have a packet in front of you. At this time, I'll turn it over to Finance Director Watson. All right.
Y'all ready to get started? Okay, so you have in front of you the, can you not hear me? Talk pretty loud. Is that better?
That's a little better.
Okay, so you have in front of you the package, the large package, and then you have a one-sheet document as well. The one-sheet document from is what we discussed last night as far as potential employee raises to go into this budget. That is as of what I ran today. And you will see down at the bottom with the amount of surplus from the budget that we're gonna go through, less the amount of the total for it, plus the taxes and retirement, and then what would come out of that prospective funds fund balance. So just to let you know, that's what that is. And that's up to date. So I've never done this before in this format, so if you all want to do anything differently, you can just let me know. Otherwise, we're just going to start kind of buzzing through. That's okay. All right, so your first page is basically a summary for all of the funds and the school system that kind of lets you know what the total expenditures, the total revenues are, and then what the estimated change in the fund balance. These are all, of course, preliminary numbers until we get to a point where anybody has any questions, changes, and so forth. So keep that in mind. This is the draft that as of where we are right now. Everything has been approved through the budget committee. Okay, we good? I start saying I'm looking for heads to look up. When people look up, then I'm gonna move on to the next thing. Okay, so the second schedule is just a little pie chart to give you kind of a visual of what the revenue is by source. Obviously, the majority of our revenue comes in through our local taxes. We do get some from the federal government, we get some from the state, we get some fees in from officials, and then all the other little tiny things that make that. But as you can see, most of it is based on taxes. Tax number is based on what we consider right now to be the most accurate. Understanding that they are meaning to maybe make some adjustments to that, and we'll have those results. Okay, so next week, so if it's significantly different from what we have now, then we will make adjustments accordingly. Of course, I'll let you know at the next meeting. It is tomorrow.
What they're doing is, I don't know how long it takes them to.
But they'll let me know when it's done. Okay, so as soon as I know, you guys will know. Okay, so the next sheet is the estimated revenue. at this point.
What number, honey? What is the next sheet? What number?
The next sheet is the total sheet of estimated revenue and appropriations.
Oh, I just want the number.
It's the back.
Backside of the pie chart.
I can handle it with the number.
You're on. You got it.
All right, and that's just a breakdown of the different types of revenue, number-wise, kind of the same as what you saw on the pie chart earlier.
Oh, boy.
We were not aggressive in the numbers for the revenues for the upcoming fiscal year. Yes.
So you've already corrected, reduction.
What do you mean, where they're taking the prisoners out?
That was estimated revenue, I would.
Well, 900,000 of it is what comes into the county. The majority of that, from what I understand, is the state prisoners, not the federal. State prisoners, there are only 10 that have been released. And so we've talked about it and decided to leave it as it is because it was my understanding that they're just doing a pause. They're not breaking that contract. And so if they're taking a pause until, for the next couple of months, then we will reevaluate at that time. But the full amount that we take in is not what would be in here. The remainder of that is reserve account. So if anything, the reserve account is what will be reduced, or at least that's what I'm being told at this point. That is subject to change.
Caroline, he has ended the contract, it's not a pause.
Oh, I was told it was a pause.
I did forward the letter out to everyone that he sent to me. Contract is over, he's ended it.
Just for this federal.
Federal inmates, yes.
Okay. All right, I'll go back and look and see what the federal side of that income is, and if we need to make adjustments to the 900,000 that's in here, we will.
Okay. Yeah, because we renewed a law enforcement contract that we had for state.
Okay.
We did that Tuesday night.
Yeah, because when I discussed with Chief Deputy Parrish about that particular revenue stream, he told me that the state contract they were negotiating was going to be significantly higher. That is not in the budget. It's in the budget as it has been. And so part of my thought as well would be any additional that we're going to get from that contract would more than make up what we're going to lose from the federal. But like I said, I thought the contract was on pause. That's what I had initially been told. So I was thinking in the next probably 3 months, it would be revisited again. So I'll just have to look into that further because I wasn't aware of that.
Question for Attorney Harden, can this be renewed after August?
Yeah, the contract it's been in place since 2017, and it essentially said upon 60 days notice that anybody could terminate it for any reason anyway. So it wasn't like a major, we had a set. So as soon as they're ready, presumably, I don't know if it'll be after the administration change or what, they can certainly restart a contract. Even though it's technically paused, it wouldn't be that hard to start it over again when they're ready.
So I'm making a note. Okay, all right, next sheet is, sorry. All right, so this would be page 1 of 8. So this is the budget summary for the fiscal year. This is just a summarized version of what you just looked at in detail for the revenue. Plus it has the expenditures for each department listed down below it in summary, just in a one line. We did note the change between the budgets between the prior fiscal year and the upcoming fiscal year.
Ms. Watson,
Yes.
the thing that is in limbo at the moment, of course, is, and I don't know whether we should address this now or not, concerning the sheriff's loss of federal prison.
That's what we were just discussing. I'm gonna look into that further. They're also renegotiating the state contract, which will probably be more than it currently is in this budget. So I'm hopeful the two will offset each other, but I do plan to look into that further.
How does it look?
I don't know until I get more information. I wasn't aware they had canceled the contract until we walked into this meeting.
Well, I mentioned that last night, or
I knew that, I was told they had paused the contract, not canceled it.
Chester.
We won't know until we have further information.
This is good, except I'll get an earpiece that I have small canals apparently, because this doesn't, I have to hold it. So I'm not having any problems. Thank you for somebody. I owe you some money.
That ordered. Actual
I got some soup. I've got your sign, you better be careful.
Oh, my goodness, be nice. All right, any more questions on this summary document?
I still don't know what I did to lose $2.
It's called rounding.
Oh.
It's called rounding. Okay, the next document is the, request for outside agencies. These are as they stand approved from the budget committee.
Sent one last email, Josh, I think, so it's
It's been in.
Halfway down.
We're on this one now, nonprofits. Yeah, okay. I'm trying to keep it in order.
Yeah. On nonprofit ends.
Any questions on outside agencies?
Say something or look up or something. Okay, ready to move on? Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so the next,
Let me ask you one question about outside agencies.
okay,
I've always been under the impression that the executive director of any outside agency had to file with the state. I don't think they have to file their amount of money they make. But I was never convinced that we looked at the outside close to that. Because there's 2 or 3 that when the executive director makes almost as much as the income, it looks, but as long as they're registered with the state, right? Do you?
we do.
This year, we implemented a checklist to go over the various credentials for every nonprofit that requests funding. So if we had any concerns or questions about their registration or status, I did the research on the state website about that. And a couple of them did then submit their registration and their required documents.
Have we ever turned one down?
Yes, there were a couple that we notified that the way they were requesting the money, they were not, it was kind of like almost as a DBA. So we did send that back to them. One of whom I think was the honor guard, they're working on theirs. And there was another one that was working through the church, but they satisfied our requirement for their status.
What's the status of the honor guard? Because on Memorial Day, I spoke with the Tennessee representative of that group out of Nashville and told him that we were conducting funerals here with, the last one I went to, the honor guard was out of Kingsport.
Right, well, you all had allocated them $10,000 pending their 501c3 status for this current fiscal year. And they did respond to that, saying they were working on it. So then we also invited them to apply for this round of funding for next fiscal year, and they politely told us that they were still working on their paperwork. So we said when they were done with that process to please come back and see us.
Just for the information of the commission, here's the problem. The VFW has the weapons. The American Legion has the van. And for some reason, those two organizations are at loggerheads with each other. And they shouldn't be. They're both veteran associated. However, that's the way it is. And I said, for 2 years, nobody's ever had the guts to come and tell me. Because there's still 4,000 veterans in this county to be buried, hopefully with a good honor guard locally.
Right, I think it's their intent to become a separate nonprofit, so they have their own control and local direction. So we're waiting on that paperwork from them, and then we can proceed.
Well, I think maybe there'll be some quicker action. If this guy's for real, who knows? He had a badge on, so I guess he is for real.
My understanding was, you know, if the guard couldn't make it, they would get the national guard to fill in at the time.
Yeah, I know they're working on it, because I've talked to him as well.
Well, we'll have to put a hold on death of veterans until they get one. That makes me feel better.
Buying a hole there, really. Don't be buying no bullets, John.
That's right, there'll be plenty of them guns and things, we won't worry about it.
Any more questions on outside agencies? Okay, let's move on to the revenue.
Carolyn, before you leave one more time,
Okay,
I presume that the financial management finishes with ARP funding this. Budget will revisit that because we talked several times about several agencies that appear on both lists.
yes, we will. Anything else? Okay, we will move on. This would be pages 1 through 4. This is the revenue detail for Fund 101.
I gotta find that.
Oh, yeah, sorry, it'll say 1 through 117, but I was referring to the first 4 pages of it, so I didn't make myself clear. I'm a little tired today, sorry.
I got one, so. Order 117, what you're saying.
Yeah, page 1, but it's the first 4 pages that are the revenue detail for Fund 101.
Now, they are front and back pages if
Yes,
you don't know that.
trying to kill quite as many trees.
I appreciate that.
We've killed a lot of trees in this process, so we're gonna try to slow that down just a bit.
I'll make it.
So this is just literally the line item detail for the summary that you've already looked at. Questions? We'll move on to the next thing. Okay, so now we would be on page 5. This is the budget for the county commission, which is you guys, basically. So So this would be your fees for the meetings. This would also be any travel expenses. There's one item that I'm sure that sticks out pretty significantly is the matching share of the broadband. That was a one-time gift. It was just put into this particular department's budget from what I understand, this was before my time, but like a better place to put it. So that's what the significant difference is. Everything else is pretty standard. I will say that based on consultation with our current chair and with CTAS, they will be opening up the classes for commissioners to attend in Nashville for this next fiscal year. So what we've done is we've put in the fee to go to the class and an amount that it would take to travel down there based on their recommendation. And that would be for all commissioners to go. Only new commissioners are required to go, from my understanding. But we would open that up to anyone who wanted to go. So that is one reason that expense is a little higher, because the last couple of years, those classes have not been available, or they've been available online only, from my understanding.
Is there any stipulations on ride sharing? There's sometimes ride sharing stipulations, 3, 4 car or something.
The way I budget it is everybody does their own thing. I mean, anything that can be done to save money for the county would obviously be highly encouraged. But in order for it to be, from the budget standpoint, I had to do what the maximum would be for people to attend these classes.
Wilkesboro County Commission.
Next one is Board of Equalization. Very similar. You have your board and committee fees. This is based on the number of people and the number of meetings that they should attend, just like the commission was. And then some just additional minor costs, which are the same as they were from the prior year.
Is that page 6?
Yes. Yeah, that's a tiny one.
6 at 117.
Okay, next would be the county mayor's budget. This is basically, the top section is for salaries and benefits. The bottom section are for anticipated expenses for the current fiscal year. And as you can tell, it's very similar to the prior year. Nothing unusual.
The large increase, I believe, Patty, is the communications officer, right? Large increase in there.
Yes, that position was put into this budget because at this point, that seemed the most logical place to put it. That could be changed at later time, and then it would be moved accordingly as needed. Move on to county attorney. It's $2 difference based on rounding. Poor Josh, I took $2 away from him, so. $2 later.
Send an extra email.
I want you to get a $5,000 raise.
Well, I mean,
Bring that up.
that's up to you guys.
I went to the wrong school.
All right, we'll move on to the election commission. This one is significantly larger than it was in the prior year. That is because there are 2 elections in this coming fiscal year instead of 1. So that would be the majority of the difference for this one. Any questions? Okay, we'll move on to the next one. The next one is the register of deeds. I will make kind of a general comment on all of these last year, and I know some of you have already been in a couple of these meetings, so I apologize if you've heard this multiple times, but last year, the pensions were budgeted incorrectly. So if you see any large variances on the pension line, it could be related to that. The pensions in this budget, we did take to 6%. We were allowed to go much lower than that, but we felt like the reasonable amount to be 6% based on the amount of overfunding that we currently have in that account. I'll also mention in general that the medical insurance shows an increase of 13%, which has been also mentioned in several meetings, but that would be the increase in that line.
Carolyn, the only other thing is that the only raises you're in here right now are the mandated raises by the state, is that correct?
Yes, yeah. The elected officials are mandated by state, so those are in here. The other raises, since we just made that decision late last night, are not in there. That was on the supplementary sheet that I've already given you. Any questions? If not, we'll move on to planning. Planning is going to be page 11 and 12.
This bonus payment, was that the one-time payment that we gave to Sherwood?
Are you, the bonus payment in the last fiscal year?
It's bonus, there's a bonus payment on here. It's $600. Item, under planning, item,
Oh, that's certifications for those employees that are required.
They give a bit of a certification or that's what they.
that's what that is.
Well, actually, in the bonus line, there's no money.
Not a bonus per
There's
se.
zero in this year's proposed for the bonus.
Yeah, but they do have certification. I was trying to say, I don't see what he's, I figured he was looking at it.
That's what Charlie asked.
So he's just looking at it.
I don't think he's looking at the proposed.
Okay, because I figured he was looking at that difference, which that $4,700 difference is the certifications. Any other questions on planning? County buildings. Just a quick note, county buildings / workforce development. Workforce development is budgeted to not have expenses because that is being taken over by the state. We are anticipating some minor expenses that we may have up until they take that building over, like mowing and other small maintenance areas. Those items are included in the county building budget as opposed to the workforce development budget. That is 13 and 14 are county building.
Okay.
One thing you will notice on this one is the increase in utilities, and that is based on the way things are going at the moment. Hopefully, all that will settle down and come back down to a reasonable level, but we have to base it on what we're experiencing right now for the next year. Any questions on that one? I'm not trying to rush you, but I don't want to just sit either. So, yeah, they're saying keep going, so I'm gonna keep rolling. Okay, so workforce development, as I said, that one was taken out because the state is gonna take that one over. Preservation of records, as you can see, there's no change. That is page 17. Page 18 and 19 is the accounting. It's my department, basically. Really not anything significantly different in that for this coming year. We did put the increase in for Skyward if we are able to do the conversion. There is a slight cost to that, nothing significant compared to what normally would be to a system conversion, but that would hopefully give us a much user-friendly atmosphere to work in and get some better reporting out of it. The only other thing to mention is the renovations that were budgeted this past fiscal year that still have not occurred in the finance, the second floor. We did put some additional furniture in there for department things. We move offices around and change things. Some of the current furniture is very old and kind of pieced together and may not necessarily fit in the new office spaces as well. But that was just an estimate that I was given from the vendor that we started looking at. I just asked them to give me some estimates, so. We would not buy anything we did not need. Anything else? Property assessor. And the only big thing between that as far as changes between property assessor and reappraisal is he did reallocate some of his salary dollars just between those two departments. Both of those are his departments. And he just reallocated from one to the other. Other than that, everything is pretty close to what it has been in prior years. That's page 20 and 21. Okay, move on to the next one. County Trustee's Office. A few changes with that, nothing too significant. We do have the official whose salary went up. We had an employee who finished a certification, so that raised their salary slightly.
Carolyn, I got
There was one other, their dues and memberships went up, but those are, he gave me the information and that's what they were notified of.
Did he budget for the office holder change? Because they're gonna have to change letterhead, the books. There's a lot of stuff that'll have to change name in there. I didn't know if he.
No, he didn't, and I didn't think about that, so let me make note of that.
They'll have to change over quite a few things as far as anything that's had Randall's name on it. So
We would have to do that in the sheriff's department too, but
it would be best to budget it now and catch it on the front end so they don't have to do budget amendments.
yeah, I wasn't aware of that, didn't even cross my mind, okay.
We may teach him how to just put a single line through the bad and initially go on about your business.
I don't know if that is allowed. Okay. Patty, could you get with me maybe next week and kind of give me some ideas of what that would be so I can add that in
You
there?
can go down and speak with Randall.
Okay.
Question about the trustees. Idle funds invested, where could we find the income on those, on that number?
Are you talking about the interest income?
Right, the institute income, idle funds invested.
It should be reflected in the revenue side of the budget.
Okay.
Yeah, so in the very beginning,
I'd like,
looking at the revenue
I'm
detail.
gonna, now that I know where to find it, I want to look at that because from a standpoint of making a little money for the taxpayer, that's a possibility. I think, in my opinion, we never invested out of the county, to my knowledge. All we do is rotate it around from one bank to another for 0.5%. David Lewis. Invest, of course, wisely, nothing radical. And he said he would help us set up a program if we were willing, and we should be willing, for God's sake. That's instead of 0.5%, let's say we could get double that or triple that. And that may.
Okay, yeah, we certainly can look into that. I've made a note.
Take a note, because I'm going to do some pencil work with some people and see if we can't do something on that.
Okay.
Of course, that has to be through the trustee, the new trustee, and he.
Yeah, well, we can certainly, I'll talk to him and we can look into it. Any additional questions on that one? Okay, if not, we'll move to the county clerk's office. That is page 23. Not too much going on this one either. Elected official in the salary increases in there, and the medical insurance is in there as far as the increase. Pretty much about it on that one. Anything material. Okay, move on to the circuit court. Same thing, increase for the county official. They did add some additional, for a part-time personnel that was needed for that office. And then the medical insurance, that's pretty much the significant line items. Move on to general sessions court, pretty much the exact same thing. No questions? Okay, we'll move on to the next one. Drug court, that is one that's pretty much given to us by the sheriff's department. It's slightly above what it was last year, but not much. Chancery Court, page 27, very similar to before, insurance and the elected official. That's the majority of the change. Looks like their maintenance agreements did increase a little bit. Judicial commissioners, there was no budget for that and hasn't been. Under administration of justice, no change from the prior year. Courtroom security, no budget for that one. That one is within the sheriff's department. Okay, the next 3 pages are related to the sheriff's department.
That's 30, 31.
That's 31, 32, and 33 are all the sheriff's department.
TVA late patrol.
Just saw that. No, I hadn't.
I do have a question about the towing services. Did
What?
I raise that? The towing services, is that for the cruisers or is that for, road vehicles? Seized vehicles. I think it's just for them. I don't know for sure, to be honest with you, that's not one of the, some of these I have looked at very thoroughly, others honestly I have not.
The towing services, the reason I say that is because several years ago, we sat down in the very first administration of Chris Mathis. And all the record services agreed that we do not charge the county crew to tow the county cruisers within the county. The only thing that we could charge for, and that was a set limit, was for a seized vehicle. Or if it was something that needed to go into the evidence storage unit. So that's why I'm wondering about that, because if they're charging, we need to check into that. They're not supposed to be.
I'll look into it and see.
I would be curious to know, and I know Keith is gone, so I guess Muncie's doing that now, but,
So they should not be charged for, like if there's a problem
if
with
you're
a
within the
cruiser?
county, limits, as a record service, you're not supposed to charge county, or to tow the county limits. Because we always felt like if you're charging, then you're kind of charging yourself since your taxes pay that. So it was something that we all agreed upon many, many years ago. So just curious, just.
Yeah, I'll look into that.
Okay.
Anything else on this?
What is this TVA lake patrol and sporting? Does anybody know?
The TVA one,
I mean, they do have.
Oakland Parks, TVA pays them for,
Pays who?
pays the
The
county
deputy.
for a patrol officer. That does nothing but goes to all the parks, TVA property.
It just helps keep
Assist
it,
them, and that's only,
raises security
yeah,
on those parks around the lake.
that's a contractual thing.
Do we get money back from TVA?
General revenue stuff.
As a matter of fact, you get something from TVA, property tax, the loss of property due to the lake. There is money somewhere that comes back to us, should come back. And one question about the sheriff's problem with personnel. I've been reading about us, some states are allowing not from the sheriff's standpoint, but from the standpoint of school teachers. School teacher, and they tend to retire earlier than anybody else apparently that burn out. But a school teacher in Tennessee can come back and work full time, but they suffer, I think, figure each year 75, they only can collect 75% of their retirement with the full salary. So due to the shortage of teachers, they've done that, and I think the sheriff's department probably, I think it'd have to be a state law, however.
We can
You
look
tell me
into
you're
that.
out of the sheriff's department, your body's so broken up, you couldn't work. Wore out, legs fell off, one eye, can't hear.
By the way, materials, pencils, crayons for the kids. Now, if they go ahead and
We need to move on to the next thing. Let's move on to the
move
next
on.
thing. Any additional questions related to the sheriff's department? Okay, if not, the next one is the jail. I will make a comment, that's the next two pages, which is 34 and 35. Those do reflect vacant positions that have been reported to us that there are vacancies over there. Those are included in this budget. They did have an increase also in food costs. And we're in the process of negotiating or looking at the inmate medical contract. That's not been finalized yet, so it's not reflected in these numbers. Probably won't be until after this is already completed.
overtime pay, bonus, not bonus, but comp time. I hear that was out of control, but I don't see it.
Well, I mean, if we're budgeting for them to be fully staffed, they should not have an overabundance of overtime. If they're not fully staffed, then we would do budget amendments throughout the year to move that money between those line items. But you wouldn't budget for someone to have an extended amount of overtime if you're budgeting for them to be fully staffed.
How can you develop accountability in that case if you're moving funds without?
Well, we would know if they were
Yeah, you-
your staff.
Doing, if you're moving funds without,
Well, I mean, it would go through a commission as a budget amendment, so it would be discussed at that time, if that's what it was. But you can't budget an extended amount of overtime if you're budgeting for them to be fully staffed, which is what we're budgeting in here, and we're anticipating they will come back up to the correct staff level. That's the way it's been done from what I understand the last couple of years, even though they have been short staffed. That's exactly what they have done and just moved money as needed.
Kind of like with the pay.
Okay, thank you, Larry.
There's metal on a stickler anymore.
Any other questions on the jail budget? Move on to juvenile services. Very little change in that one. A little bit of a staffing change up on the youth officer, youth service officers. Other than that, not a significant change. Fire prevention is the volunteer fire departments. Rescue squad is what was discussed earlier with outside agencies. The next two pages, which are 39 and 40, are the EMA. The difference in the medical benefits for the EMA, the increase is the fact that there's two staff members and only one of them is budgeted for benefits the prior year. They are both budgeted for benefits this year. Okay, inspection and regulation, page 41, no change. Page 42 is the county coroner, and the increase is based on The number of calls that have been increasing, and also the expense for gasoline. And direct medical supplies as well. Unfortunately, all these things are increasing in price.
Whose option is it to call for an autopsy? Is that automatic?
Patty, can you answer that question? Because I don't know.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Sorry, I was distracting her.
Who calls for the autopsies? Is it automatic or does?
Two of the children were decapitated with the. Two were decapitated, this is the coroner speaking. 3 were so badly mangled that he could not identify them in the face. Therefore, 100 at a decapitated 2 children.
Oh my goodness.
Two children were decapitated.
That's terrible. Okay, let's move on to other public safety. Very slight change in that one. The next one is the local health department, local health center. Okay, move on to the next one. Page 45 and 46 are the animal shelter. Shannon's sitting back there. She did a great job on her budget, by the way, and she balanced it from what I understand, first time ever. Any questions on that? Okay. The next page are some of our outside agency information, which was on the other page. Yes. Next page is basically other health and welfare is the only thing on that page. Very small change from the prior year. Page 48, or 49, excuse me, is the summary for Parks and Rec. We'll go over the detail on that one when we get further through the package, when we get to their fund. And then the next page is Boys and Girls Club and Imagination Library, which are outside agencies. Page 51 is the extension office. Very small change in that one. Page 52 is flood control, no change from the prior year. Page 53 is for tourism, and this is the hotel motel tax that comes into the county and then goes back out to the chamber. Page 54 is the Veterans Office, a very limited change on that one as well. These from the CARES Act are only in there just because they were included in the prior year. That's not part of this year's budget, but because there are prior year numbers in there, they're included so that your totals match. And this miscellaneous, the main thing, and that's the trustees commission. It's budgeted as the same thing as it was last year. Page 58 is the litter grant. And that's all of Fund 101. Anything else before we move to the next folks? Next is, this will be the beginning of landfill. So first page is the summary of what their estimated income will be and what their estimated expenses will be. And if you see, they have a positive, small positive, I don't know if you call it surplus, but they did balance their budget. Providing everything continues as it currently has been. We can move to, okay, so their detailed budget is page 59, 60, 61, 62, and 63. Yeah, it's a, I'll hide those lines so there won't be that big gap. Any questions on their budget? Benny's not here, but I can answer what I do know. They did have to increase utility expenses, of course, like everybody else did. Any questions on that one? Okay. Move on to the next thing. The next one would be the health department, which is 117. The only change in this one is the fact that she's rebidding the cleaning contract, and so we assume that there would be an increase in that new contract. Everything else is going up, so we assume that would too. Any questions? Okay, move on to the next thing. The next one is the drug control fund. We'll move on to the next one. The next one is Fund 123, which is the Parks and Rec budget. The detail for Parks and Rec are on page 67 and 68. So this is the summary one, and then the detailed one is behind that.
friendly amendment, wasn't it?
I must have missed that. Oops. Okay. We need to add 30,000 to the Parks and Rec budget. I missed that somewhere. Because I put it back as the way it was last year, which I heard that part. I missed the 30,000 piece. Okay, let me make myself know. Oh, that's right. Chris, that was that grant you and I were discussing.
Yes, ma'am.
That's my boo-boo, sorry. Any more questions on that one? Thank you for bringing that to my attention so I get that fixed.
Well, I thought fund balance was a positive 166. I remember last time you told us it was positive 136.
Yeah, I forgot to, evidently I didn't put it in my notes, when I went back and changed that budget, so I apologize for that one. I made my mistake, Brad. Are you happy now? You knew it was coming. Oh, I hate to think, I'm sure there's other stuff I missed. Oh, goodness, I didn't even think about it. Okay, so, yeah. Okay, so American Rescue Plan, we did, right, receive our next payment today. Came in this morning. We were notified by the trustee's office, so we all did a happy dance in case you didn't hear us saying yay. So that money has been received. However, we have not, the committees have not made decisions on what is going to be spent out of that remaining money. So that will be updated in this budget once those decisions are made. And now that we've received the money, and we did receive it in this fiscal year, that will also be updated. But I wasn't sure. I'd heard different things about when the money was going to come in, and I didn't want to put it in this fiscal year and it not arrive before June 30th. So that will be added to this. All right, next
Carolyn,
one.
did you give them an amount for that? What came in today?
It was exactly what we were anticipating. 5.4. Yeah, I'd made a couple of phone calls on it and it miraculously appeared today, so that was nice. I'm sure not because of the phone calls, it was just coincidental.
So we weren't gonna send it till somebody called.
Just to keep me on my toes, is that what it was? Next one, so this would be Fund 131, which is Highway Department. We had made a slight change on that one. He got an additional 200,000 in the estimated state fuel tax revenue, and so we added that to the budget and we split it between gasoline, diesel, and asphalt. And that was, he and I discussed it, and that seemed to be the best place to put it. Everybody's gasoline, and especially his diesel, is just through the roof right now. I'm not sure when it's gonna get better.
I live, what Roger's done with Bridgeburg. Match has been dropped in some cases.
Yeah, well, this was, the bridge work was the amount he's gonna get in, and then he's gonna use that money, of course, to repair those bridges. that are offset in between where and expenses. And he gave me that breakdown of which bridges would be done and what amounts would be spent. So that one is page 71 through page 77. He has a couple of vacancies for truck drivers, and those are included in this budget.
Everybody else.
I know, there's several departments that have vacancies, but all of those vacancies, if they're, they made me aware of that as we went through that payroll analysis. They are included in these budgets, so if and when they're able to fill them, the money's there to take care of it.
Find somebody, yeah.
You want to take a break? We can take a break because we're ready to start schools now in case anybody unless anybody has any questions. That was quick. Okay, let's take a break.
Right, go home.
Oh. Oh, I don't talk very loud.
We're going to general purpose school fund.
All right, so just housekeeping notes, please make sure you sign the sheet that went around the room for your attendance. It's up here if you didn't. Also, I emailed a PDF copy of the document tonight, so you have it in your emails and for the benefit of those that couldn't attend tonight as well, so. So we have a similar presentation for the general purpose school fund. You can see the summary revenue sheet, as well as a summary of expenditures. And then it's further broken out on the back of that page with where all revenues come from. And then how it's allocated to their different programs, regular instruction, alternative, special ed, vocational, et cetera. And all the various support services for students. So just a couple of sort of big picture notes on this budget. It does include a 3% raise for professionals and a 4% raise for paraprofessionals. The state is mandating a minimum salary. The state is mandating a minimum salary of $45,000 by 2025. So this budget accommodates a minimum salary of $40,500 as well as the raises that were mentioned. Their particular insurance rate went up 6.5%, so that's factored in for their medical lines. The pension contribution rate for professionals is 0.0869%, which is a decrease from the prior year of 2.3%, so that's factored in as well. The paraprofessional pension contribution rate went from 8% down to 4%. So throughout your budgets and departments, you'll see a significant decrease in the pension costs for all of the staff at the school. The other significant item that came out of the budget is in the prior year, they had a retirement incentive that has expired. So that $342,000 is out of the budget for the upcoming fiscal year. Also, as you all know, the vocational ed CTE programs have been expanding in number of programs and number of students served. So there is an increase in some of those related budget items. Transportation had some significant changes, which we'll go through. Technology had some less significant changes. And of course, fuel and energy for the operation of plant was increased as well. So on your detail pages, page 79, starts at page 78, you'll see the detailed revenues, similar to the prior presentations. Local option sales tax has been significantly more in the past 2 years. So there is a budgeted increase noted for the local option sales tax. Local taxes goes to maintenance of effort. So all of those lines in that category contribute to maintenance of effort. And there's other receipts that they receive. Of course, various different grants during the year typically come in as a budget amendment. You have your DEP funding from the state of Tennessee in the next section. That's estimated to be decreased for the upcoming year. And then their salary equity is estimated to be the same as the current year. That's page 79. Other items really haven't changed. page 78 and 79. The other item that contributes to maintenance of effort is your state revenue sharing, TPA. So that is $760,000. It's in 46851. So that top category and that TBA line contribute to your maintenance effort in case you want to see this specifically that. So overall, we're anticipating a slight increase in revenue for the school. So the detail expense lines start on page 81. This is your regular instruction program comprising your both of your teachers, your salary, equity, and so forth. You'll see an increase in the teacher salaries because of the wage increase that's been budgeted of the 3%. And then you'll also see are in that category as well. That negative 342 is coming out. Page 83 is your
Hold on a
alternative.
second. Back up to page 81. Where it says bonus payments. Tell me exactly who all that included.
From 2021. That was a bonus that was given. It was either a $500 or a $250 bonus that went to all staff. It was my understanding.
All staff teachers or paraprofessionals or,
Everyone, everywhere.
okay, because I've had some question that some didn't get it. And they can't find it in where they got it. They're supposed to, when I thought about it, they were supposed to get it in June. And several people said they never saw it in June, so I thought maybe when I watched the school board meeting, it was paraprofessionals, full-time got 500, part-time got 250, but the teachers at that meeting anyway, they waited, and I don't know if they went, the next school board meeting, they voted on it or what. So I wanted to make sure before I gave any information on that, if it was everybody. I didn't see it on my check, I'll tell you that, but I could have.
I did spot check some, so I guess the impression was that it was in June, but it wasn't in June. It was like a February payment in the middle of an odd time of the year. So I can look at it further and run some reports for you, but.
Well, they didn't get it later, Kelly, she didn't, and her
But
wife or whatever.
if they were thinking they got it in June, then, that's why it would show up, but you've got,
I mean, if
Or
you can
I mean-
email me the names or a specific person, I
every
can
single
look at it
one.
or I
Did not get it. That's why I'm wondering, if it was in a prior check and they,
I don't think it was
some people
June.
get career ladder, some people get the equity check, and that's two totally different amounts.
And those once a year.
Right, and that's why I think that some of them may have misunderstood or whatever, but now the meeting I watched, they did not vote for the teachers, but but I didn't see the next meeting.
Right.
So
I mean,
that's
I'll
why-
look at it further because I think it was prior to my time as well, but when I did spot check it, I did see the bonus payment in a lot of people's accounts. And it was like in the middle of salary supplements, equity. I mean, there's a whole lot of different things that come in at that time of the year. So it may have gotten a little lost in the sauce, but it would help me a lot if I had specific names to research.
Well, you can research mine.
I will do it.
I mean, and look and see, because that seems low if everybody in the school system got, all full-time employees got 500.
But this is only one department. So there's many, many other employees, like in federal funds and all that. So
But this would come from.
No, but I mean, there's a lot of employees outside of this one particular department.
It would have been reflected in whatever department they were in, where their normal salary would be. That's what department their bonus would show up in. Even though it wasn't federal funds, it still would have to follow wherever their salary is budgeted.
Well, this one. Right.
It's just for the teachers that would be included in regular instruction
Teachers and
program.
teachers and principals and supervisors.
This particular,
Say paraprofessionals and.
right, this particular department is only teachers, only teachers. And that's it. Educational assistants are there as well. So that bonus is only for those people in this department, not all staff.
But that's why I'm saying that seemed awful low if it's just teachers and principals. If they were supposed to get $500. You understand what I'm
It's not
saying?
principals. Principals are elsewhere, but,
Well, they're up there at the top, so that's why I wasn't sure.
yeah, I'm happy I'll go back tomorrow with the staff and get more information on exactly who received it. We can print out that exact payroll and bring it forth. So this department too is a good example of the decrease in the pension costs because of the change in the contribution. So any questions, other questions on that? Page 83 is your alternative instruction program. There's essentially two teachers. I believe they have transferred a couple of positions out of this department. Page 84 starts your special education program. Again, this is very significant expenditure for school district. You have your teachers, your educational assistants, this is where the speech pathologists and other professional persons are in this budget. Page 85 is your vocational education program. And not a lot of changes up in the salaries and benefits, but you can see some increases in textbooks for this particular department, as well as some required travel that's coming back into play after COVID is ended. Travel is being required again. Page 87 is CARES Act money, and that's sunsetting back 2021 funding. There's no budget for this current year for that. Page 88 is your health services. I believe with this budget, they are reallocating some nursing professionals to split them between a couple of school buildings so that every building now has at least a part-time person for health services, and it's based on the population of the school for that, but there is a little bit of change with that. Page 89 is other student support, which are your guidance professionals, your guidance personnel. People out of psychological personnel that were budgeted there prior, they're actually guidance people, so that's why there's a shift there. Evaluation and testing has changed as well. Their expenditures for high-cost students are anticipated to go up because of a couple of individual cases. And page 90 and 91, I'm sorry, page 90 is again regular instruction. These are your program directors, supervisors, librarians, and categories of that nature. Page 91, alternative instruction is your program director for alternative instruction. Page 92 is similar. It's your program directors for special education programming. So those are noted there. Page 93. Similarly, they break out their directors separately, and those are noted there. Page 94 is the technology budget. They did change a little bit of staffing. They took out a part-time technician and added a full-time clerical person to this budget. So that's the major change there. And they did increase their software budget for general operations as well. Page 95 is your work-based learning grant. There's no budget for that. Program has expired. Page 96, there's very little change, just some reallocation of funding for the Board of Education. Page 97 is your director of school budget, along with secretaries. So you'll see some just changes there up at the top for benefits and so forth. Page 99 is your fiscal services. It's the reimbursement back to our finance department for our personnel work related to that. And there's no change with that, with those line items, I'm sorry. Page 100 is your operation of plant. You have all of your custodial personnel in this department. So there's some significant staffing for your building custodians as well as operations for mowing and things like that. Custodial supplies, cleaning supplies are up quite a bit. Page 101, your maintenance of plant. Some maintenance personnel as well as director of maintenance. And then you'll see some changes to building improvements, HVAC systems, seems to be increasing in costs each year. So there's a budget increase there. So page 102 is transportation. There was some changes in personnel in regard to the director is a different person. They also added operations manager. They reduced by one mechanic position and changed their personnel as well. Yes.
That new operations manager, is that also under supervisor and director?
Yes.
Thank you.
And they're budgeted, again, they have some vacancies with bus drivers, so this budget includes 44 drivers.
I can say something. I know that the new supervisor slash talking about, he works on motors, he drives the buses when there are many substitutes calling in or whatever, need a substitute. Also, I questioned that myself, but he does quite a few different things over there that I think a lot of people don't realize, because we are short buses, bus drivers big time. And he fills in.
Right, he's kind of, my understanding, a jack of all trades, so while he is the operations manager, which is a new title for him. He does mechanic work, he drives, he manages the other bus drivers and shifts and things like that. So, he probably worth the investment, so.
I know once, for a week, he was having to do 2 bus runs.
I think most of the mechanic, I mean, last year, I think the mechanics and him were all driving buses, almost every single day, so. So this, the bus drivers did receive a raise in the prior fiscal year, so that's reflected in this budget. It looks like significant change. It was a significant change in their wage level across the 44 positions, so that's why it did go up significantly from there. Down towards the bottom in total transportation, this year they had a bus budgeted. This coming fiscal year, there's no bus budgeted in that line, so you'll see that difference. Page 104, there's no budget in Central and Other anymore. Page 105 is your community services. A lot of this budget comes in as recognized through their grant process through a budget amendment. But your basic personnel is budgeted at the beginning of the year. Page 106 is your early childhood education. You have your teachers, supervisor, and associated personnel for that. And that comes in as a budget amendment after their final application is given. Page 107 is your regular capital outlay. So they run consistently for repairs and improvements of their buildings through their regular operations. So you'll see that that's a consistent budget from prior years as well. Page 108 are your transfers in and out. So that's fairly consistent year for those items. So their fund balance is making up the difference in their expenses to their revenue. And that's about $972,000 on their fund balance, for the budget balance.
What is that fund balance?
Fund balance is about 14 million. Any questions on general purpose? All right, so the next budget is for Fund 143. It's your general cafeteria fund. So you have your summary page and then a slightly more detailed summary. Page 109 of 117 is your detailed revenue. For those of you, she made a note that the funding mechanism during COVID is coming to an end, so they are returning back to their traditional fee for service, reimbursement for no and cost lunches. So some students will now start paying for their lunch program as well. So you'll see that change in their federal government revenue. So also on page 109 starts your detailed expenses for your supervisor and all associated personnel at each school. They also reimburse the county for fiscal services as part of their operations. You'll see that under total food service. The reimbursement methodology with Head Start food, so that's now picked up in the cafeteria budget as opposed to getting reimbursed from Head Start. They also, at the bottom on page 111, they reimburse 141 for indirect costs like energy and so forth. So that is now budgeted around 120,000, which the state has given an opinion on. That's a reasonable. The next budget is your Head Start budget. They receive their revenue on a calendar year. Our budget is on our fiscal year, so there's a little bit of a timing difference, which really accounts for the change in their fund balance. So that's kind of made up in the following calendar year. So we'll go on to that. We'll see summary items. And then her detail page starts on 112. So you can see that change right away in the 90,000 with food service. So they're no longer doing that reimbursement back to food service. Food service is just paying for their food for Head Start. They do have some CARES Act money that's been rolling over from year to year, so we have acknowledged that in this budget this year as well. And you'll see her detail line items for salaries and benefits and early, the other operations costs. There's nothing really significant there. Other than the fact that we did put it out and make a plan for her CARES Act money because it will expire, so she wanted to have a plan for that. And so that's detailed this year as well. The next budget is for general debt service fund. It's the county one, so we're sort of jumping back to the county briefly. We'll see the payment for the current policies in place. So the last fund is your Education Capital Projects Fund, number 177. We did look at the revenue coming in and the share between the city schools, Elizabethton and Johnson City. So our revenue figures have been updated to account for that change in allocation. So the school has asked that we create the budget this year for expenditures to acknowledge that they would like to spend their current year fund balance that they'll have at the end of this current fiscal year, and next year's income into that fund for capital projects, which is primarily the Hunter Elementary School. They're not going to spend all of it. It's budgeted at 95%, so leave 5% in the event there's a major issue in another school building that needs expenditure. So that's why there is a significant fund balance decrease in 177 as they're planning to expend that out for their project this year if it's approved.
What do they have to keep in the fund balance?
In the 141, they have to keep 3% of their operating budget. They're going to keep 5% if the project is approved.
Any questions?
dismissed.